Thursday, the 14th of September's Cabinet meeting. Welcome to our guests in the gallery and to those that have chose to join us online. You're very welcome. So if we move on to item 1 on the agenda, which is to confirm as a true record the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of May. Somebody, Councillor Jones-Evans, so you have a seconder for that. Jonathan Bacon, all those in favour of that, please. Okay, I invite members to having a double. Thank you. Okay, so we move on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is declarations of interests. Are there any declarations?
I'm going to declare an interest on the Better Care Fund care delivery file, and however remote it may fax.
Councillor Karen Luciani.
It's not.
Thank you very much. Move on to item number 3 on the agenda, which is public question time. Would you like to question out?
Okay. From the reference in item 6, report from the Cabinet for Finance, Climate and Biosphere, United Nations Convention on the Child. I wish to draw Cabinet's attention to item 3 of the places a duty to consider the best interest of the child as a top actions that are, as it has been evidenced by head teachers, excessive surplus of is in the best interest of children. What is the timetable for taking action on this issue?
Thank you, Simon. I've got a response. It's a little bit long, but it's I hope it's that you'll persevere. First of all, Simon, I've only just newly come to sort of like the children's type of things, but I have to thank you personally for your consistent dedication and passion in coming here and asking questions, both at Children's Scrutiny and everything else. I really admire that, and thank you very much. And if I'm still part of the administration and doing that, I'd be very pleased to work with you. I think it's to be acknowledged. You've done a great job. Okay, so we do have a problem. We have too many empty children's spaces in our schools. This is impacting our island children's education in a number of ways. Financially, teacher recruitment, retention and training, SEN provision, and the ability to deliver a full, broad-based curriculum. Schools are mostly funded on the basis of how full they are. Where there are fewer pupils than places, and schools do not get the full amount of money they need to do their job. The school funding system needs to change. However, we don't know if or when that will happen. Therefore, we need to look at ways to effectively manage the empty spaces issue for the benefit of our island families now. Inevitably, this will involve the closure of some schools. This is not an easy course to take. In particular, it relies on information and understanding and a consideration, and if necessary, an acceptance that there is no other alternative. Earlier this year, it was proposed we take such a route, but that came about without the public having sufficient information and an understanding of the problem. As a result, we stepped back to allow time to work with everyone concerned to be able to understand fully the rationale behind the proposed consultations to close. The unfortunate timing of a review of the partnership with Hampshire County Council for the provision of children's services resulted in a decision by Hampshire County councillors not to continue as they needed to focus on Hampshire children. It has been made clear by senior officers that we cannot manage the transition away from the partnership and proceed with the school place planning process at the same time. It is imperative that we sort out the management of children's services, and this process is underway. It's a statutory duty. This gives us the opportunity in respect of school place planning to provide information and develop understanding of the situation and to explore any possible alternatives to a process of closure that might exist, and to do that with stakeholders, including teachers, parents and communities, and I hope you'll be part of that. Therefore, as indicated earlier this summer, we will now commence an informal all-island process for the next 4 months to engage with and listen to you, our residents, before potentially moving to a formal process once we have our new management arrangements in place in 2024. No schools shall be named for possible closure until that time. But we cannot rule out at this stage the possibility of there being some school closures. In the meantime, we will ensure that sound financial support and advice for schools continues to be provided, and we will work with head teachers and parents to achieve this. I know later on we're going through the recruitment process, so we really are trying to work this as fast as we can, Simon. And again, thank you so much for your interest.
Thank you, Chair. It is obviously disappointing for me to hear that the council apparently doesn't have the capacity to do 2 things at the same time. And I would also point out that a lot of the information that you have just included in your answer, which I'm very grateful for, is information that was brought to the scrutiny committee for all children's services this time last year. So, it does appear from us in education that the cabinet is dragging its heels on this issue, and it's disappointing to hear that it's going to be another few months before we make any progress, and children's education is suffering all the time that we're not making progress on this. Thank you.
Are there any other public questions? No. Okay, thank you very much. So we move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is Chairman's announcements. Okay, so traditionally the summer period can be quieter period for councils, but I think we can all agree that the council remains busy in delivery of its services to our local residents. I've always been very clear that the focus for the Alliance will be our residents and communities, and my update focuses on providing information on some of the aspects of this work that the council is delivering. The Human Resources and Learning Development teams have worked with the Centre for Ageing Better to develop a case study for their website, which highlights the council's commitment to being an age-friendly employer and acknowledges the value that older people play in the workforce, bringing them with them important life skills. That could be me soon. We are proud that nearly 1 in 5 of our apprentices are aged 50 and over. Well, it is me, which is about the same proportion as those who are aged 16 to 24. We will continue to work hard to create career paths for roles, from social workers to carers to teachers, and to offer flexible working arrangements to create a culture of a diverse workforce. I was both excited and very proud to learn of the £3.1 million awarded to the council by the UK Government Youth Investment Fund to help refurbish Sandown Town Hall. As an administration, we took decisive action to spend the funds awarded on a high street task force and in our corporate strategy to call for action on derelict buildings. The entire Regen team did an outstanding job on securing this funding. It is my aim that as much as possible of the 3.1 million will be using local suppliers and contractors. therefore continuing to commit to the Alliance priority of the circular economy. Improving facilities for young people in the Bay Area are one of the emerging Bay Place Plan and bringing one of our derelict buildings back into use after many years of uncertainty. We hopefully act as an example to others. We also work successfully in partnership with the Office of the Police and the Crime Commissioner for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight to commission services for victims, survivors of domestic abuse, and for those using abusive behaviours. These will be delivered by the Youth Trust and the Hampton Trust, respectively. The contracts will provide support for victims, survivors of domestic abuse, and those using abusive behaviours using a range of methods, including community-based provision, refuge and safe accommodation, group work, training and raising. And if you haven't watched the BBC True drama, the following events are based on a pack of lies. It's a bit of a slow start, but it's a frighteningly accurate programme of what's going on. Following the decisive action of the Alliance Group, the very successful installation of a new roof, it leaked over 40 years ago when I worked at the library. Lord Louis finally opens to the public on today, following a 6-month period of operating a limited service from the area of the building, which is normally the children's library. The library are now looking forward to welcoming visitors into the new watertight space and resuming the huge range of popular activities that took place before these essential repairs started. I wish to express my utter, sincere and wholehearted thanks to all the staff that have worked tirelessly to get this done. We also continue to work with partners to promote winter vaccinations for flu and COVID. As we all know, COVID is on the rise and not many of us have missed catching it again. Vaccination helps to protect against severe illness, hospitalisations and deaths from COVID. People who received an autumn booster vaccine last year were around 53% less likely to go to the hospital with COVID-19 in the 2 to 4 weeks after getting vaccinated compared to those that didn't get a booster. So if you're entitled, do get your booster. I know you're all tired of hearing about fair funding and the island deal for our island. I can only express that never before has such a monumental effort gone into providing government with our evidence. In fact, the government actually said, please don't send us any more, we're swamped. I've been rather a pain, by being quite persistent, in getting Minister Lee Rowley to come to the island. I'm advised this week that he will be visiting in the next coming weeks. I dearly, dearly hope this is positive news for our very precious island. Tribute must be paid to every member of staff, from the Chief Exec, the 151 officer, directors, and all those others that have collated so much information, and to those people that have supported me for many months in making sure I was brainwashed in understanding the process. Your patience was both needed and gratefully welcome. I feel like I'm an expert on all this algorithms now. I'm delighted that connectivity has been added to the Islands Forum at the next meeting. I asked that leaders could have time to privately discuss as a group when they came to our island in May. Without doubt, all wanted connectivity on the agenda. The next Islands Forum is early October, where I will ensure whoever goes in my place understands the needs of residents regarding our ferries. Finally, thanks to my absolutely amazing cabinet over 120 weeks and the staff that have completely supported me. Thank you very much. Okay, so we move on to the next item, which is item 5A, which is Children's Services, Future Arrangements. You will have all seen the paper in front of you. I don't think there is much more to add to where we are. Once again, I thank the staff for working very quickly on this and getting to get us into a position where we were able to call a meeting of the employment and appointments panel to be able to move forward with the recommendation to start bringing in-house our children's services. So the recommendation on that there is option 2, which is to agree to the termination of the current partnership agreement with effect from the 31st of January 2024, returning the overall leadership and management of all children's services functions, including education, in-house, with arrangements for buyback of specialist services, support provision, where there is a cost benefit for a minimum of a 12-month period. I would just say this was cross-party. This wasn't just the administration. This was absolutely cross-party group of people that all got together and came to that recommendation. The scrutiny on Tuesday. Oh, right, okay. Voted to endorse option 2 that had been recommended in the report. So is there anyone that wishes to raise any questions? Oh, I need a seconder. I do. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Councillor Andre. No questions?
It was just that I was a few of us at scrutiny on Tuesday, and just wanted to reiterate that there were no comments about this whatsoever, no worries, concerns, and the chair was very forthright and going for option 2. So it's always good to actually be at scrutiny to actually hear the conversation, but this is all very, very positive.
Thank you. I think the sooner we move on, the sooner we can get somebody in place, the sooner that the school place planning can start. Can I assure you, Simon, that actually on the when I chair the meeting of the employment and appointments panel, and I have requested, although I won't be obviously now that on Wednesday when I step down as leader, but I have requested that place planning is one of the biggest issues that we need to address, and I would like that addressed in the interview stages too. Okay, so that is the recommendation. It's been seconded. Sorry, Debbie. Yes, please.
Just to say that we are in a much stronger position now than we were in a decade ago when we entered into this partnership. I think this presents us with an opportunity. As the leader said, the Director of Children's Services is a statutory post, but it does give us an opportunity now to actually look at the service and shape it according to what is right for our island. And as Laura said, we know what the challenges are, so that will be very much at the heart of the recruitment process of the Director of Children's Services. And I hope to be on the appointments panel moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. Can I have all those in favour, please show? No one against? Fabulous, thank you. That's unanimous, thank you. That means staff can really get on now. That would be absolutely superb. Okay, so we move on to item 6A of the report, which is for the Cabinet Member for Finance, Climate Change and Biosphere. And this is the QPMR. I have to say that because I always say Queen's Park Rangers. So the QPMR, Councillor Jonathan Bacon.
Thank you, Leader. It's the usual quarterly paper, and it's there with all the usual monitoring measures, and I will obviously invite, I should say, any members who wish to comment on their particular areas to do so if they wish. There were very few comments at scrutiny. One question, rightly and obviously asked, was about ongoing scrutiny of finances, and obviously that is asked, what are we doing? Well, it's the day-to-day work of Chris Ward and his department to keep an eye on things and to keep us balanced and going forward. The pressures we're currently facing are set out on paragraph 24, I think it is.
paper's just escaping me in the bundle. And yes, it does not look good, but there are also potential savings identified, shown in the table just a little lower, which do reduce the current pressures we're facing by some £1.6 million. I think there have been some suggestions, discussion in the press, are we facing bankruptcy? As I think I said in response to that, it's not a rosy picture, but it's certainly not a situation where we should be panicking. Things are being managed and managed well. In fact, I should note that paragraph 18, which looks at the outturn from the previous year, notes that we did a little better than expected, to the tune of 2.4 million. It's listed as savings. It's better to say that these are more additional income achieved. So I think that needs to be noted when discussing that. But it has enabled us to bring forward £2.4 million to be transferred, placed into reserves and capital funds for this year, which will give us much greater resilience going forward as we face the pressures, economic pressures of the coming year. I would just like to highlight one other point which relates to my particular portfolio and set out in Appendix 8. And that is in relation to the discussion on future-proofing for net zero. So just let me find the passage. Yeah, about halfway down that page, page 96. It refers to the work that has been ongoing with Scottish and Southern Electricity Network about our network capacity and the proposal for a new interconnector with the island. And I was just about to say thank you so much, Leader, because through your work, particularly through the Islands Forum, you managed to get the Chief Executive of Ofgem here, and we sat in a meeting where the case was presented, and you scored a bullseye, I think. The Chief Exec, Jonathan Brearley, got the case and he even added to it. He said that the island is plainly an important test base for green energy. And so that case for a new interconnector, despite the eye-watering cost of £55 million, it seems is, as far as we can tell, being taken forward. And that will have a massive benefit to the island as we change our energy base, as indeed as the whole country, to ensure we have a sustainable future. So I just thought that was worth highlighting, but in particular for the work that the Leader put in towards achieving that. Otherwise, Chair, Leader, I present the report and look for a seconder. I've no further comment, but others may.
Okay, Karen, Councillor.
I just
Yeah,
want
Lee?
to, in my report, I just want to thank Trading Standards for all the incredible work that they do, protecting vulnerable people on the island and helping them recover money, etc., or stopping it happening as well through intervention. So I think they need praise where it's due.
Okay. I do think the big hug I gave Jonathan Brearley helped. When he first came in, he went to shake my hand and I decided he needed a hug after what he'd been through in the past 18 months with all the energy prices. I think that's what sealed the deal. Anyway, thank you very much, Councillor Bacon. All those in favour of that recommendation, please show. Thank you, that's unanimous. Okay, so we move on to item 7A, which is the Better Care Fund paper. I see that Councillor Ian Stevens is online, and I see that Laura, the director, is here. I don't know which one of you are going to speak to it.
Laura, sorry, Chair.
I was going to say that's easier because there's two Lauras in the room.
Yeah, I'm in a bit of agony at the moment, I'm afraid, with these ribs. But
that's fine. Actually,
can I just leave it to? Can I leave it to Laura?
To Laura, yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you very much indeed. Sorry, bye.
No, that's absolutely understandable. Thank you.
Good evening, Cabinet. The paper before you relates to the Better Care Fund. It's an annual paper that comes before Cabinet for formal sign-off and adoption by the Isle of Wight Council. All of the information in relation to the Better Care Fund, its history and the allocations this year is provided in the paper. The paper seeks your approval twofold. Firstly, to confirm the final return for last financial year, which was due for submission, and secondly, to approve the plans for the Better Care Fund for 2023 to 2025. There is a further request contained within the recommendation for you today to provide delegated authority to myself in consultation with the Cabinet member for any amendments that need to be made to the Better Care Fund as part of the approvals process. I can confirm that I received contact from central government only yesterday to confirm that they're satisfied with the plan that's been submitted, subject to Cabinet sign-off today. So it won't be necessary, I hope, to make any further amendments to the plan as has been submitted.
Thank you. The other Laura. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this? Councillor Andre.
Thank you. Just to highlight, despite the fact that this is an annual submission, I know that this involves an incredible amount of work. So it's definitely not just a copy and paste job. And I'd just like to highlight that the fact that this time round, it is for 2 years rather than the one. But let's hope that that carries on moving forward, because we really do need to have a longer term budgeting and planning in this. But it's good to see that things are heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay, so in the absence of Councillor Stevens being in the room, I will propose the recommendation. Debbie, Councillor Andre will second the motion. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? No, then we can go forward. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Those against? Abstention? Yeah, I think you should. Thank you. Okay, so we move on to the next item, which is the report from the Cabinet Member for Planning, Coastal Protection and Flooding, Councillor Paul Fuller. This is Housing Affordability Supplementary Planning Document. Councillor Fuller.
I present to members the adoption of the Housing Affordability Supplementary Planning Document. This will act as a stepping stone before we hopefully agree to an island planning strategy sometime in the near future. One of the things that I think all members are quite demanding about is the need to be able to provide affordable housing for our local communities. We know that housing, there are more than 2,400 people on the housing register. That is not acceptable. And I think what little steps we can do to make sure that future planning applications can recognise the changes that are coming forward in our housing needs on the island, the better. And this paper goes some way to address that. It's not the full package, but it actually puts ourselves in the right direction, and it does facilitate things like Rent Plus and other things, and changing demographics that we've seen in the last 10 years since the adoption of the Island Core Strategy. Thank you. Before I go, before I finish, I would like to mention that Councillor Chris Quirk did make some points at Scrutiny's Committee on Tuesday, which I think makes perfect sense. Further work needs to be done about transient residents that come to the island to work in our hotel industries and such like. And I think we need to perhaps look at that when considering our housing availability, also for people coming to the island and who are sofa surfing like so many of the other young people on the island. They are permanently here. And they need support, and I think this is something that Scrutiny Committee wanted to be looked into. So I've spoken to officers, and they're willing to do that. Thank you.
I will just read out the recommendation of scrutiny, which was the committee voted to endorse the SPD, subject to the comments made during the discussion. So we have an endorsement there from them. So are you going to read the recommendation on page 184, please, Councillor
I'm
Fuller?
very happy to, my recommendation is that the housing affordability supplementary planning document attached as Appendix 1 to this report be formally adopted, and that any final editorial and presentational changes to the SBD are delegated to the strategic manager for planning in consultation with the cabinet members for planning, coastal protection and flooding, and adult services and housing, public health and homelessness. These changes will not alter the meaning of the document and will be restricted to grammatical, presentational and typographical errors. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Andre. Are there any questions from the table before I go to Councillor Brodie? Yeah, Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to say thank you, Councillor Fuller, and all the officers for bringing this paper forward. As you said, you know, with the lack of the new island plan progressing, we need to have this this commitment really, and the policy framework that is going to allow us to bring more affordable housing to, you know, to our residents that are greatly in need of such. I was a bit perplexed on Tuesday at Corpus Christi. As I say, I like to attend. I really like to hear the discussion and really get underneath of what they're saying, because sometimes you get a recommendation, but you don't really know what's behind it. So I found it interesting, also a bit perplexing, because I think this does move us on. I think there was a thread there on Tuesday that this does nothing. Right, I disagree with that. It does do something, and we have to keep moving forward. So have that policy framework to enable us to deliver. So sort of thanks from me personally to you and the officers for trying to move this on. And it's not going to change the world overnight, but we get there step by step, don't we?
Anyone else from the floor?
Thank you, Chair. A little clarification, Paul. I hope you got the answer. I should have mentioned it before we came in. But on Appendix 1, 3-bed, I think I've understood this. So 1 and 2 bed will be affordable at 70% of market rent or local housing. 3 bed up to 65%. That's capped at 50% for low income. Is that absolutely right? That the affordable mean for people on low incomes, that the value of that property will be 50% of the market value, half the value or half the rental value. Thank you, Chair.
That is very much the aspiration. Again, when our planning officers talk to developers, a lot of these discussions are subject to negotiation. But what we want to do is we want to make sure we can provide as much as we possibly can with respect to island affordable and hopefully social housing for our island residents. What is so important is that we give a roof over people's head, and at the moment we don't particularly do very well doing that. We're making steps in the right direction, but this is the purpose of reducing those numbers.
I'll just pick up on you there, Paul. We don't seem to be doing much, except in 2021, 22, we provided 237 affordable homes, which is a good deal more than between 2017, 2021, when it was 42, no, 73, 83, 91.
Yes, but we can always do better, Phil.
Okay, I'm just going to bring in Councillor Stevens as a cabinet member. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I'm going to be brief because I catch my breath every 5 seconds. I'd just like to say that Councillor Jordan's right, that we have done a little bit better, but the reason why our strategic housing manager, and indeed the way we're transforming housing within the Isle of Wight Council, is to get the best that we possibly can from the resources that we've got. And that's also highlighted in one of the areas. If you look at Appendix 2, where Rent Plus is mentioned, Rent Plus has been introduced to the island along with other providers, to give us a broader base to provide affordable housing, whether that be in the rental market or indeed in acquiring through purchase, etc. Now, and that's through affordable island affordable rents to assist people to get on the property market ladder. Now, these are things that are with us and are coming forward, you know, over the next few months. So I would say that, you know, a big thank you to the staff who are assisting so ably with introducing some of these elements, but also to you, fellow cabinet members, for supporting me and absolutely going out there and trying to bring these new opportunities to the island with new providers. Because far too long, if you look at some of the stats within that report, you will see we've been reliant on some of our private developers developing and taking just a few units off of them for affordable housing. Now, what we need to do is, quite honestly, up the game and get on and introduce new elements so that we can actually provide more opportunities for more people to rent and buy island affordable pricing. So I'll leave it at that. But we're doing that. It's coming into focus over the next few months. And I would say, you know, that the Isle of Wight Council staffing are moving, you know, heaven and earth to get there, because we know that not only is it a situation with renting and homelessness, but it's the knock-on effect with, as I've said so many times, with the emotions and the stresses on families, which also impact on our social care services. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. With no one else wishing to speak, I'm going to bring in Councillor Jeff Brodie.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few remarks about this, because housing is the issue I'm most particularly interested in. When the draft came out back in June, I have to say I was pretty upset about it, to be honest. I think it was an appalling document in many ways, and I did make submissions through the formal public consultation process, because that is the only avenue I have as an Isle of Wight councillor to feed into policy development within the Leader and Cabinet model of local government, which you all know I oppose entirely. I did make those remarks, and I have to say to you, having eventually got round to reading it in full, and Councillor Fuller knows what I'm going to say, I entirely welcome it. It's been revised appropriately. It recognises the fact that the issue of affordable housing that is most important on the island is affordable housing for rent. That is what counts. And it is very clear, as opposed to what it said in the draft, that 80% of affordable housing will be for rent. I'd like to see it as 100%, but you know, I live in the real world, and I'm not going to see that through any administration on this council. The only remark I would make that is, and I said as part of the consultation, and I've read a lot of documents about Rent Plus. I think it's fanciful, to be frank, to expect people who are paying 80% of the market rent to save money to buy houses of the sort of wages that islanders earn. I think is beyond belief. I really do. And I know there's a real pressure being exerted. I'm getting emails from all sorts of people off the island, etc., about, I even got a King's Council's opinion today on Rent Plus, whether it counts as affordable housing for rent or an alternative product. You know, I just think it's fanciful, and I'm pleased that within this SPD, it's only going to be a minimal percentage of what you would want to achieve. So, and I mean, finally, you know, as a member of the planning committee, you know, I fought long and hard on there to see more and more delivery of affordable housing for rent in the face of some councillors who don't seem to want to address the very real needs of people who haven't got a lot in terms of a decent house, a decent roof, which is basically, as far as I'm concerned, a human right. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, did you,
Yeah, I thank Councillor Brodie for his words. I think what we need to do is have as many tools in our toolbox as we possibly can. Rent Plus is one of those tools, and I appreciate the work that the Councillor Stevens has done talking to Rent Plus. But again, it is the social housing, the private rented, that we need to be able to be much firmer on. And I thank Councillor Brodie. I don't see Councillor Brodie really as being a backbench member. I think when he speaks about housing and affordable housing, he knows probably more than most of us. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much. So councillor Fowler read out the recommendation. It was seconded. All those in favour of that, please show. Thank you very much. That's voted through. Okay, so we move on to item 9A, which is the adoption of EV charge point infrastructure. This is Councillor Phil Jordan, report of the Cabinet Member for Transport, Infrastructure, Highways, PFI and Transport Strategy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't speak too much about it. We know about it. We've seen it before. We've had a draft. It is first, just let me say very briefly, firstly, Jim Fawcett and his team, I say his team, it's a very small team, but nonetheless his team and Jim have worked enormously hard and extensively on this. It's an enormous piece of work, actually, and impressive that the actual strategy is, which you've got in front of you. It belies all of the work that's gone on behind that actual strategy, the work that he's done to bring together all of us. I've been involved at certain levels in certain instances on this, trying to work out in a very evolving marketplace how we match that carefully. So it's a living document. It will change. It will change as the demand for electric vehicles and therefore charging points goes. But it's pretty comprehensive. Currently, the highways team are looking at another specific problem of electric vehicle charging, and that's for those people who have no off-road parking at all. You can imagine in the middle of Newport, for example, where we get instances of trailing cables across pavements. There has to be a solution to that. We're looking into that. There are some market operators that are starting to deliver that, inducting across pavements. Portsmouth use lampposts in some cases. That's fine where the lamppost is close to the roadside edge. If it's 450, which is a standard regulation of highways away, it's more problematic. That's half a metre of trailing cable. So we're working on all those things, but it's matching the number of charge points across the island to the demand, and that's a changing market. And finally, I guess, the reason we have to do that is that we're being funded quite significantly through the Levi funding, which is offering up a further, apart from the funding we've got to deliver this with employing staff and delivering the initial part of the strategy is 1.6 million. It's in the Cabinet report. 1.6 million of capital funding. We're doing it through partnership with market operators. We'll go out and get a single provider from here to help us roll out the further charges. Colleagues, that's it. Let's get on with it and start putting more charges out because there is a demand there. The recommendation is very briefly that Cabinet approves the draft EVCI strategy. I look for your support. A second, a first, Braxton, and support. Thank you.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak to it? Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you. Yeah, again, it's important to have the policy framework there, isn't it, to get ready for the EV well, I guess it's going to be a revolution at some point. You know, lots of people aspire to have electric vehicles, not within their gift yet financially, but we are, you know, the world is changing all the time. We've seen the changes we've gone through just the last few years. So for us to be ready for that is really important, because that will then encourage people, knowing, especially ones who don't have any off-road parking whatsoever, that they can actually, you know, with some certainty, they can charge their cars when eventually they get one, like myself, hopefully one day.
I'm encouraged by some of the latest developments in electric vehicles, Chair, that allow you to limit the speed of them, particularly when they're coming into town centres such as Newport, to 20 mile an hour automatically, which I know Councillor Julie Jones-Evans is a great supporter of. So we look forward to that as well.
Glad to hear your support for 20 mile per hour, Councillor Jordan.
Well, my husband wore me down and he ended up buying an electric car. So I've got one now.
I've noticed the instructions are in the front on how
The
to drive it.
instructions are in the front of how to use it. They really are, in very simple terms. Okay, so we've had the recommendation. It has been seconded. If no one else wishes to speak to it, can we move to the vote on that one, please? All those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item is yours as well, which is the local bus service. If you wish to speak to that one, Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Again, let me thank Stuart and his team, another extensive team in the council that have worked tirelessly to bring this through. This is a result of government forcing would be too strong a word, but emphasising, suggesting that this would be a good plan for all local authorities to enter into a partnership with their local transport providers, public transport providers, and of course offered up lots of money that we could bid for to do that after we agreed to enter into the partnership, and then didn't get any of the money. So we'll wait other opportunities for that. But the plan is here, the scheme's here. I won't run through all of it. You can read it, and it's a public document for any of the members of the public want to see this, but it's comprehensive. There is some small amounts of money coming with this to improve some of the services to be decided in due course. Chair, there's not much more to say. Let's also get this into place and start making some improvements to our public transport.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this item? Oh, sorry, is it seconded, please? Councillor Paul Fuller, bus user. Yeah, I should have declared an interest, I reckon. Is there anyone wishing to speak to it? No, then can I just have all those vote in favour, please show? I think it's unanimous again. Thank you very much. Can I just pay tribute to Jim Fawcett too? I know Councillor Bacon bigged me up over the Jonathan Brearley and Ofgem, but again, it really was Jim Fawcett that is. Laura, shall I write this? Laura, yes, Jim, go for it. You know, and it really is exceptional. He's absolutely exceptional. Love him to pieces. Okay, so that has gone through. So we now move on to item 10 on the agenda, which is the cabinet member announcements. I would just say for people that seem to think maybe we haven't achieved a lot maybe in 2 and a bit years, 2 years. This is just a list, actually. A4, just keep going. This is all the decisions, all of the items that we've had to deal with, that we've got through. It just goes on and on. So we have done, I have to say, the cabinet have been absolutely outstanding in trying to bring through all of these items. Nothing is easy or straightforward. We have mountains of documents. You've only got to see the paperwork that we have to read through. I have to say I'm utterly delighted that we've managed to achieve this amount of work. And it's been no mean feat. We're all, you know, We should be justifiably proud of what we've done, I think, because it really is remarkable. And to those staff that have had to write a lot of this and that have been supportive, and especially when we've been rather challenging. So thank you all very much. So I'm going to move on to cabinet member announcements. I can see we've lost Councillor Stevens, and I know he was going to do a report on housing.
He said he didn't feel very well, so he was going.
That's understandable. Okay, so I'll go round the table. Councillor Andre, you've got something to read out. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. We are currently in a transition phase in the provision of children's services on the island, following the decision to end our decade-long partnership with Hampshire. I'm very grateful to both Hampshire and Isle of Wight officers for developing the strong and robust service that we have now and over the last 10 years. We are maintaining a good level of service throughout the transition period, with many initiatives moving on at pace. In fact, next week I shall be opening our first family centre in Sandown, which is the first of 3 such centres to be established on the island. And we are at the forefront of this provision with recognition from government, which will provide a one-stop shop for families, providing a range of support from one central location. There's also a comprehensive adult education programme available, offering a wide range of courses, some of which are free of charge or discounted. Subjects include Multiply, a maths course for adults designed around their needs, computer courses, health and wellbeing courses, art and craft courses, and business management. And that's just a small selection of the courses available. And details can be found on our Isle of Wight Council website, and courses can be booked online. Careers appointments can also be booked by calling a specific number, 01983 817 280. We do know that we still have challenges to face, and most urgently, the surplus primary school place situation that needs an approach that will address the situation not only in the short term, but in the years to come. We are mindful of this and will ensure, as has been said previously, that our new governance structure has the capacity to deliver a high standard of service to island families and to tackle the issues that we face both now and in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andre. Councillor Bacon, would you like to read your report?
I've got a few scribbled notes. Firstly, Laura, I'd just like to thank you for all your leadership and support over the last 120 weeks, whatever it is. You've been amazing. I don't think anyone around this table or in this building would demur from that. Thank you just so much for everything you've done. In terms of formal announcements, and nothing specific really, I suppose I'd like to highlight the ongoing transformation to create a sustainable future in the day-to-day operation of the council, and hopefully affecting that across the island, particularly through the climate change strategy and related activity. I think it was interesting to note that last week the planning committee approved 2 new large solar farms and did so unanimously. If you combine that sort of activity, the fact that it can happen now, and that probably wouldn't have happened a few years ago, mindsets have changed. Combine that with what we said earlier about off-gen, and we are moving, I think, slowly but steadily towards a clear change of culture and a realization of the challenges and needs of the future and how to deal with that. One specific thing is that to assist in that, the new decision-making tool is coming online in the council. It requires report writers, decision makers to consider and take account of the aims of the climate change strategy, UN Sustainable Development Goals, as they write and consider reports and proposals. It sounds a technicality, it sounds a bit of bureaucracy, but it is actually in the training proving very important in moving people towards realizing what their work, the impact their work can have and how they can affect things and move towards that sustainable future we all need. And indeed to make the island future-proof. It sort of builds on, you see in the reports we have at the moment, that we take account of young people, of course, as has been highlighted before, considerations in relation to poverty, climate change issues. They're just 3 of the sustainable goals, the UN sustainable goals. But now we're looking at the full suite of those considerations and, as I say, strengthening our future and hopefully the island's future. I'm hoping that tool is going to be fully in use in the next few weeks, certainly by November, and it will carry on the work that I hope I've been doing with some success over the last couple of years. But as I say, nothing else specific than that, but just once again, thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Councillor Bacon. Councillor Paul Fuller.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to give a quick snapshot of what I've been doing in the last couple of months. Discussions are ongoing in partnership with town and parish councils concerning supporting local important services within next year's budgets. I'd like to really thank the Chief Executive and Sharon Betts for working with town and parish councils. I think it's important that we get around the table early, because I think it is appreciated to know where the pressures are and to be able to move forward on those pressures. So it's been really, really good, and I really, really thank the Chief Executive for her work doing that. Residents in Wroxall are really happy. The decision notice for the Worsley has now been completed, so we are hoping to see that blot on the landscape improve. So thank you again to officers for moving that on. Work continues with the support of Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council to restore 2 key properties in Newport High Street. Again, this is an example of how partnership is working with the planning department on actually improving some of the buildings that we have in the town centre. And again, I know that there's been a lot of work in partnership to be able to go where we are. Work on the Ventnor Coastal Protection Scheme continues to run days ahead of schedule. A public meeting was called earlier on in the month with Ventnor Parish Council, and I think the feedback from residents were very, very positive. Just to give people an update on planning applications, 487 units last year were granted planning permission, and that is just a touch above the figure that we have put within the IPS, which is 479. So again, the analysis that we have done for the IPS is very, very close to the actuality of the figures that we've got. So again, thought I would flag that up. In November, the Isle of Wight Council were due to work with the Environment Agency on consultations on coastal protection schemes in both Yarmouth and Shanklin. I look forward to that consultation. We think it's going to take place in November, and certainly we are working with the Environment Agency to make sure that is done sooner rather than later. Again, coastal protection issues, and I know Councillor Andre will reflect this, fairly dire when it comes to the Yarmouth Sea Wall and the need for that wall to be repaired to actually protect that area from being flooded. I've been approached by residents in Yarmouth concerning proposals for the former Yarmouth School and the potential redevelopment of that, and I welcome that. Myself and members, they're not just members of the planning committee, but we had a fantastic site visits to new housing developments in Bryston, Cowes and Godsill. Again, we were looking at the affordable housing, which again is key to everybody, but also about greenhouses that are environmentally friendly, which helps to reduce the running costs of those homes, which I think will become increasingly important in the coming years. After initial teething problems at Seaview, we've now restored the slipway at Seaview. I think a lot of members in Seaview were quite anxious that this was done before the summer season started, and I really thank Tash Dix for helping us with that. Finally, I'm very, very clearly disappointed that the government has issued an NPPF in the last few days. this NPPF that has been issued by the government does not, it fails to recognise at this time the exceptional circumstances we have for islands, which is something that we've been lobbying for. We were hoping to see come in by government, and we're not saying that it's not going to happen, but it just hasn't happened yet. That said, we are still creating a realistic housing figure for the island, which has now been reduced from 473 to 453. No, 479 to 453. The reason we've managed to be able to reduce that housing figure for the island is because we have granted so many applications in the last year. So that is a positive reflection of the work of the development, the planning unit, and also planning committee as well. Grateful thanks to the planning committee. This number that we are looking at, 453, is lower than the government methodology figure of 735, just to remind members. That concludes my report, but I have been busy and there's plenty of other things I could waffle on about, but I'm sure the last thing you want to
Please
hear
don't waffle on
is
anymore.
me waffling on. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for all your hard work too, Councillor Fuller. We know that, you know, everything is a hard slog and you're getting there. So, Councillor Jones-Evans, please.
Thank you, Chair. Got just a few updates on the various parts of my portfolio. First, going to start with the heritage. Scientists have discovered a new species of small plant-eating dinosaur on the Isle of Wight. The new species, Vectrodromius insularis, is the second member of the Hypsophodont family to be found on the island, suggesting that Europe has its own family of small herbivorous dinosaurs distinct from those found in Asia and North America. Now, this discovery was all because of we've been collaborating Dinosaur Isle with University of Bath and University of Portsmouth and local fossil collectors as well. Our curator at Dinosaur Isle Museum, Dr. Martin Munt, said this exciting new find is the latest in a line of new discoveries from the Isle of Wight. And the co-author, Professor Dave Martle from the University of Portsmouth, said it's utterly bizarre that so many new dinosaurs are being discovered on the Isle of Wight. I find dinosaurs quite often on the Isle of Wight, but there we go. These are new ones. Vectrodromius is the 7th new species of dinosaur discovered in the last 4 years. It's all down to the amateur collectors. The museums, as a Dinosaur Isle, the museum's mission is to try and ensure as many new finds remain here on the island for the benefit of our island community. We anticipate this dinosaur to be on display at the museum for the October school holidays. That's something to look forward to. Again, Dinosaur Isle awaiting a decision from the Arts Council England on our MEND application for vital repairs to the museum. And I want to thank the officers who worked hard to get this application shaped for submission. When you're asking for nearly £500,000, you have to you have to put a lot of evidence in. So thanks, that was a big team effort there. Another huge thanks needed to another application that went in, you mentioned it earlier, Leader, the Youth Investment Fund, where officers went above and beyond to bring all the elements together for the bid for Sandown Town Hall. It was successful, as you just said. We've got £3.1 million to bring the building back into use for our young people. This brings a significant listed building at risk back into repair and use. Terms and conditions are being finalised for us to acquire an important unused derelict site in Newport. I hope to announce this complete very soon. The next stage of the proposed cultural centre in Newport Harbour is progressing. On my recent holiday to the west, that was west of England, not West Wight, I took out time to visit East Quay at Watchet, and they got £5.1 million of coastal communities funding back in 2019. And it was very inspirational going there. Their similarity to us is quite uncanny. Even though they're on the mainland, they're actually quite isolated where they are. And so I spent a good couple of hours there and talked to the people that brought us together. So I've learned a great deal to help our shape our ideas in Newport. And particularly one element was they part of it on top of their new cultural centre, they have accommodation. They have these pods that are designed by artists, and this brings in significant income for them because people want to be in an elevated position seeing across the sea. So here you can imagine it being down the harbour and looking up the Medina. Might even better see up to Cowes, Leader, you never know. Going to One Leisure now. One Card memberships are continuing to increase, and we have bucked the usual summer trend of a decrease. in members, with numbers still growing. We're up to 86% of our pre-pandemic numbers, so all going in the right direction. I put this down to our excellent facilities and the dedication and professionalism of our One Leisure team. Used at the Heights from tomorrow, we'll be able to use new sauna, and soon replacement weight training equipment will be replaced at Medina. We have applied for revenue funding to help with the eye-watering utilities costs for our swimming pools from Sport England, and also put one in for Waterside. The West White did not wish to submit a bid at this stage. However, the next part of this funding is for capital linked to carbon energy reduction, and we expect to be putting in applications for all three organisations. But I must caveat this as the fund will be highly competitive and demand far outstripping the available funds. We continue to support GP referrals to One Leisure and have a 50% retention rate for people becoming full members and doing what they can to support their own health. The replacement mug at Queensgate is now being completed. Again, that was a whole Isle of Wight council team effort, from education to planning to our team. One Leisure. Visit Isle of Wight has been accepted as one of the first few local visitor economy partnerships, and we had a visit from the area that we're in, the southeast area representative. Spent 2 days on the Isle of Wight, came to our Economic Development Board meeting, learned a lot about the Isle of Wight, and this enables us to have a seat at the table and be first in line for any funding or also marketing campaigns that were coming our way. So it's a great kudos that Ireland is able to do this. Solent LEP is working on a culture strategy for the region, something that I brought forward with Satya Kerr, who's the leader of Southampton, and with Steve Pitt, who's the leader of Portsmouth City Council, because we thought it was very important to build on the work of the Southampton bid for City of Culture, and really do a cohesive strategy for the region, which again feeds into our visitor economy too. So I've been able to help shape this piece of work, and that's been jointly funded by the Solent LEP and by Arts Council England. Just want to say well done for everyone involved in the island for producing all the events that have been to the delight of residents and visitors this summer. They're not easy to put on, and sometimes get very challenging weather, as we had with some of the carnivals. But the carnivals have been fantastic, and particularly need to mention Event the Fringe, a 10-day event which brings visitors from across the island and got mentioned to dispatches at Bristol last week. So well done to everybody there. There's been a great opportunity for businesses to get free mentorship from the LEPs. It's fully funded, 12 hours, and it's specifically for creatives, tech, the visitor economy, manufacturing, and those wishing to reach net zero. It's on the LEP website. It's called the Solent Business Mentoring Programme. I say, and it's free, 12 hours. Today, you mentioned about the library. I actually visited Lord Louis this morning as they reopened their doors. I learned about the new technology that has been integrated into the roof, including a solar roof windmill that acts as an air conditioning unit. And thanks to the Friends of Lord Louis for providing new cushions and seating in the children's library area. There's been a fantastic effort from all areas of the council to get this long-awaited project complete. As you said, it's been leaking for 40 years. So, and I did ask what was being done with the buckets, but apparently they were just boxes they used for books. They're going back into their original use. So thanks to you all. And I just want to say good luck to Cowes and Ryde Library with the application to the Library Improvement Fund that primarily is looking to assist with the accessibility at both of those locations. Just finally from me, Leader, be pleased we squeeze a lot onto 1A4, but just one-sided. This month, we say farewell to many members of our regeneration team. I've enjoyed working with them for the past 2 years and briefly back in 2017, including our director, Chris Ashman. I'm sure that all elected members have voiced their thanks to the team for their hard work over the last 6 years, and they've brought in £118 million of investment to the island. No, none of us wanted to be in this situation where we were losing so many talented people who were bringing investment to the island. But it's a sad reflection of where we are and the call on our statutory services. But I'm sure all the investment that has been brought here will continue to do the work it was intended to do. And we still have many projects we are still completing. For instance, Venture Keys, the levelling up, and we're not without aspiration. just needs a bit more perspiration, I think, to get there. But just want to give my voice to thanks to everybody for their hard work, and also thanks to people that are taking on the jobs and finishing off these important projects. It's not going to be easy, but as long as I'm in this position, I'll do all I can to support them. I'm sure the rest of the cabinet will agree. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Jones-Evans. I did know that it was little print so that you could get it on an A4 sheet. A little cheat there, but really there's some absolutely fantastic and really, really useful and brilliant information there. Thank you very much. Keep going. Councillor Jordan.
Yeah, size 6 peaker that squashed up. You've just heard the reason why I wanted to do regen, Chair, because it's lovely. You can talk and be effervescent and positive. Instead, I was consigned up the Dash Way for the dull, dreary highways, managing the PFI contract, which is altogether a different kettle of fish, rewarding nonetheless, and we're making some inroads and some improvements, but it's a slog, and I just wish I'd had the opportunity to write a page like that, but I haven't, knock on. So I'll tell you what we have been doing, Chair. You'll notice in our papers on our quarterly month, I didn't write anything, by the way, in spite of you telling me.
That means you've got a black mark by your name then.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, the PFI continues to throw up contractual challenges. We've improved our team enormously. We've got some great people in the team, good experience, good quality. But, you know, it's an uphill battle, and we are challenging where the standards are not being met. I'm constantly contacted by members of the public over their perception of contractual failure. Some are, some aren't, but their perception. It's a challenge. We are out to legal advice on some of those challenges right now, and we'll see where that goes. But it's important for this authority, for this council, for this island, for our residents, that we hold the contractor to account. We want what he said he was going to do, and that's what we're doing right now. I'll continue again after next Wednesday, if I'm in this role, to update you all on that. But be assured we are holding the contractor to account in a way that hasn't been done before. My other great thing, which isn't the page full of that, is the floating bridge, which continues to tax and test us all. But again, some positive news in that. We're coming to the end of this saga. We settled the dispute. That's done, finished and over, and we've moved on to look at how we can improve that crossing and that service. We've got engineers, local but outside of the council engineers, working on a report on the crossing, the existing vessel, and how we can improve that. I will come back to you again if I'm here after this next week with much better news about how we intend to deal with the existing vessel. So that's good news. Today we passed the strategy for electric vehicle chargers. Great improvement for us, for our island. We're beginning to catch up. We've approved the bus enhancement strategy. That's good news for people using public transport. And I guess we're being held up on our local transport plan, which has been developed, ready to go, should have come to Cabinet, and we're now awaiting government guidance to explain if there are any different ways we need to approach that plan before we bring it forward and agree to ratify. Chair, you know, there's lots more. I do this on a daily basis, like all of us up there in the dreary way up at the highways, but it's not dreary. It's a slog. It's a slog.
It sounds it. Okay, Councillor Carnicioni.
I've got bullet points. So some great things. We're still we're achieving 98% of waste divert from landfill, which is wonderful. the same day booking is being worked on for the tips and will be live in a couple of months, I'm told. So that's being tested by our ICT teams at the moment. So I know that a lot of residents will really like that, especially myself, because I don't really plan those things. The next thing that is slightly concerning for me for various reasons is these one-use vapes. So I just want to ask for it to be reported that we've got thousands of these bits of equipment that need to either be taken to the tip and put in the waste electrical and electronic equipment part, or people like Tesco's, other brands are available. They actually have pots now on their thing where they sell the cigarettes, so that you can put in. They cannot and should not be put into your normal rubbish. They have too many components, and they can't go on the black bin waste trucks, because again, they're not just batteries. Okay. But the other thing for me is the ongoing work for the underage selling of this that goes into the regulatory services part. And if I'm being slightly more political than that, I'd like to see legislation that actually takes the colours away from these things and has it all the same as like cigarettes, because there is a new one in Ryde, I have to tell you, and it looks like a toy shop because it's so colourful, etc. I really worry about that. So I'm going to be looking into that when I speak to our teams. So we've really got a high quality on collections. There's less than 20 missed collections per 100,000. So there is a good calibre of staff on our trucks. We've had refresh of black bin collections that collects the batteries as well. That's been really popular. And I like, as we know from the diverted from landfill, that we know that people are recycling really well now. And the other thing that I use personally, and I see a lot of people using it now, is the textiles going out with your green bin. And the great thing about that is that it goes off to somewhere where it goes out to charity shops and it can be distributed, or it's recycled for other stuff. So I'm really a champion for that. The other thing that you've all heard me banging on about for quite a long time now is the opening of police station front desks. Obviously, Newport's got one, but Ryde hasn't had one for a while. Cowes is looking to have something change of use. I can tell you that very shortly we will be finding out which ones will be opening. So I am really pleased about that, because I've been working hard with that with the Police and Crime Commissioner. I've been on that all the time. So the other thing I'd like to say, our fire estate has had £5 million invested into it. A lot of work has gone on to that. So if anybody wants to come and have a look at any of them, I've done a trip around all of them. There's a lot of work gone on. So please get in touch if you do want to come and have a look at them. That'd be brilliant. The other thing is all the youth work that the fire and the police do with the police cadets, the fire cadets, and my personal favourite as well is the Prince's Trust, which does fabulous work with our young people. And the other thing I've done is observer days with the police, and I recommend it to anybody. I know, Debbie, you've done some, but it really is worth doing that and working alongside police. I'm doing the rapid response shortly. I'm really excited about it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all very much. As you can tell, we put an awful lot in. We put our heart and soul into everything we do as cabinet members, and I think it's absolutely to be applauded. The reason why we've managed to be as we are as an alliance is because actually we try at all times to put the people first and how they would feel about things, and we really do put our heart and soul into everything, not to and also sort of so many hours. It's unbelievable, the dedication. So again, thank you all very much. We don't know what's going to happen as of next week. You may be cabinet members, we may be not. I may be weeding out the front because it looks disgusting. But anyway, who knows? what's going to come. So the next item on the agenda, thank you all for your hard work and dedication. And that's not just from me, that's from the islanders that have contacted me since I notified of my resignation. They are indeed very proud of what we've been achieving. The next item is consideration for the forward plan. Is there anything that cabinet members identify for decisions or which need to be amended or removed from the forward plan? Councillor Jones-Evans.
Thank you, Leader. I was just wondering whether Mr Potter would be able to give any further advice on the Browns lease. Is there an update on that, please?
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Judy Jones-Evans. There has been a call in relation to the Browns lease. I have been in discussion with the client department and indeed legal services in order to seek to address the concerns which have been raised in the call in, and it is hoped, and we're not there yet, but it is hoped that that can be resolved very quickly, and I'll keep you informed accordingly. Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Judy Jones-Evans. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I think the details of the lease are commensurate with the ask of the call in, so hopefully that can be resolved. Thank you.
Councillor Luciani.
I think Wendy might be able to clarify on this. I know that there's a lot of work been going on with our cybersecurity, and a strategy will be coming out shortly, certainly in the next 8 weeks, I would say. So I don't know when that needs to go on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leader. You're quite right, Councillor Luciani. There was a draft strategy being worked up. We will do what we do with other strategies, which is look at a draft strategy first before putting it on the forward plan for consideration and a final decision for a future cabinet meeting. I haven't got a deadline for that as yet, but I would hope it would be, if not before the end of the calendar year, early in the new calendar year.
Just in case I'm not here, I just want to let you know that's coming through because there's been a lot of work on that, and I need to praise the officer for it.
Councillor Jones-Evans.
Sorry, just one thing that needs to go on the forward plan. I will thinking about November, but I'll just have to double check that. Is once the paper's finalises for the fairway track, the race couple track, which is something that's been hanging around for a long time. It was put as a saving, I think, back in 2018, something like that. So, it's that the savings being put there, but it hasn't actually been realised. So, working with the team there to get that put to bed really, and secure the future of that track for the local clubs there.
Thank you. Okay. With no more other items to add to consideration of the forward plan, we move on to members' question time, and I have received some written questions, but first, as Councillor Brodie has taken the time to attend the meeting, I will allow him to ask his question first. Councillor Brodie.
Well, Chair, it's next Wednesday, it's my intention to support a continuing alliance arrangement, like administration. And I've made that very clear that I will never support a Conservative administration. However, I've sat here a number of times and I've sat here tonight and listened to each cabinet member list all the things that they've been doing or have achieved, etc. You've referred to an extensive document there. One of the things that strikes me, and I'm wondering if you could give me an answer to this, is that message that you're articulating in here is only being heard by the few people on there, me, officers, and good old Louise, who attends all these meetings and has limited opportunities. She's not going to be able to report everything that you've said in a million years, because that's not the way the media is anymore. It's not the days of Gavin Foster, which you will remember, or Richard Wright, or Sue Pert, or any of those people, Leader. And I just think that whomever takes over this council in the future, you know, and it's, you know, would you have a message for them in terms of how can we start to turn around the negativity about the local council on this island is increasingly prevails. What can you suggest in terms of upping the media game? Because I have to say it's not good. And, you know, I've observed media operations from this council under different administrations. And you have, frankly, apart from Mrs. Dennett, the Observer, a very low profile. Now, what suggestions would you say to your successor, whether it's from the Alliance or from the Conservative NIMBY group, as I prefer to call them? Thank you, Chair.
Well, Councillor Brodie, I don't actually know what to say to that. It is sad when we are trying to do so much for the good of the island people. I think, you know, we all write reports, every one of us, so that we, you know, on a regular basis. We do come here. We try to say as much as we can in full council without making it boring and monotonous. We have a really good team. I know Abby that tries to do a lot of the information with help and support for people on the website. I know the Isle of Wight Council has a Facebook page apparently that you know, to try and get the message and the word out there. It is really difficult because you seem to be I don't know if it might be better, actually, to be quite honest, Councillor Brodie, if maybe we did more radio interview where people are driving along but they can listen to the information. It might be that sort of thing would make people sit up and take notice a bit more, or because they've just got busy lives, they don't necessarily sit and read this information. You know, I get it. I'm one of those too. You know, attention span is minimal. So I don't know whether radio is one of those things where people can just sort of listen as they're doing other things. TV, I don't think would come. Shame we haven't still got that TV station we used to have. What was it, Solent TV or something? Or I can't remember, but it was that was really popular, I have to say. So I really don't know how we get out, because it's not just us as as the cabinet and the administration. You know, the staff have been there to support us, and I said before, we've been very challenging with what we've wanted to try and achieve, and sometimes it has been like walking through tar and treacle only to get out being quicksand. But we've persevered, and we are, you know, we're doing it. But I think probably trying to get maybe more radio airtime, that people are just listening to that sort of thing, because on social media it's just a quick what was it, 10 seconds, 33 seconds, I mean literally people just go like that. And I don't know what else we can do to promote without seeming like we're boasting about everything, and we're just not like that. We're just getting on and doing the job. Yeah, maybe we should boast. Yeah. Councillor Jones-Evans.
This coming as well. I think it's also, I think there's a culture we're dealing with as well, because so many media outlets rely on click-throughs to get the revenue. And I've noticed that a negative headline is always much more exciting and thrilling than a positive one. And I think I've seen recently even a positive message has been completely flipped around. And you just despair, because it's actually a really good news story, but they're looking for always the negative because they know that's going to draw people in, and that's a shame. I think that's the world we live in. But I think that was good advice there, Leader. And thank you, Councillor Brodie. I think it's important that we get our message out properly.
And thank Councillor Brodie for his compliments. It's good to hear, especially from him. Councillor Fuller.
Can I just come back quickly? Can I just come back? You know, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was a mixture of compliment, but, you know, I am not, you know, an absolute fan of your administration. You know that, Leader, I'm not. But what I'm saying is that irrespective, you could be, you know, making everybody homeless on the Isle of Wight sort of administration. You need to get you got to get your message across, you know, and, you know, I mean, I just know that Mr. Richards is still here. I mean, he's one of my residents, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's, he's the only member of the public here. That gallery should be packed with people. The problem is that, you know, reliance on the print media is not going to be the future, I'm afraid. You know, it's got to be broadcast media. It's got to be very different from what's happening now. You know.
Councillor Fuller.
I totally agree with Councillor Brodie. We did a consultation for the last 3 months within planning to get feedback from stakeholders on our planning service. Because if you look on social media, everybody complains about the planning service. I think emails went out to people. It was on the bottom of the planning officers' forms. Please give us your feedback. Out of thousands of responses we've had over the summer, only 27 people responded. It's not good enough. I do social media. I've got a blog. It's absolutely rubbish. What I try to do is I go out into my community and tell people about what we're trying to do. And that sometimes is the best way of doing things. You know, I think the relationship that we're building with our businesses, with our town and parish councils, has actually made real inroads. And although a lot of people will say, well, you're rubbish, at least the town and parish councils are actually thinking, well, we've asked the same questions and we've had this response. So it's about being part of Team Isle of Wight. We're not on in isolation here. We're working for the wider community. And I think that is something we shouldn't lose sight of. Whoever is in charge of the island.
Councillor Bacon.
Thank you, Leader. Funnily enough, I was on Vectis Radio last week. Almost this exact question came up, and it was a very interesting discussion. And the view was that get the national politicians to up their game a bit. Those people who are in national politics, or those who are driven by national politics, seem to, over the last, I think we said 20, 25 years, have diminished confidence and respect and understanding in politics. Well, not so much politics, but the work that politicians have to do. And that backfires on people like us. They're the people who are spread all over the media and take away that interest that should be in the public gallery here, should be in press, whether it be local or national. That's not an answer, that's an issue. But maybe it's like Councillor Fuller said, it's down to getting people interested again, but that's got to be part of that, is removing those elements that undermine the ability to do that and undermine the confidence and undermine the respect for the work. And that also backfires on the council officers and everything it's trying to do here. They do massive amount of work, really important stuff, but because we get shouted at because we're politicians, they're thrown in the same bag as well, and it's just not fair. So not an answer, but an observation.
Okay, I'm going to. Really? What was you going to say? You got the look. I can stop children screaming in a nanosecond by looking at them. Okay, so I'm going to move on to members' questions time, which was the written ones. So it said, would the leader, this is from Councillor Paul Brading, would the leader publicly acknowledge the excellent work that Hampshire Council have done for the island over the last 11 years? And is she disappointed that the successful partnership's coming to an end? I agree that we have benefited from a long and supportive partnership with Hampshire County Council, working together to improve services for children to create a sustainable service. Our success is largely due to the dedication and support of all those who work with our children and young people, both staff, councillor, and those in our communities, and I thank them wholeheartedly for their support. The partnership has evolved over the years, and whilst I recognise that many will be disappointed that it is coming to an end, this was not a decision for the Isle of Wight Council alone. We are now looking forward to the future. We are not looking forward. We are looking to the future with renewed resilience, strength, and good support for local children and families. We will continue to work closely with colleagues across the water over the next few weeks and months in considering these proposals. Second question is from Councillor Michael Lilly. What is the current financial position and progress of PTEC, the tidal wave project, in light of PTEC Orbital appearing not to have bid in government CFD round 5? This probably means something to someone. So the response is that the Isle of Wight Council are a very small minority shareholder in PTEC and have no formal role in the investment or other decisions of the company. The council have approached PTEC for a response to the question raised and have received this response. PTEC is in the process of seeking further investment for the next stage of development, which will see the project reach financial close. We are in discussions with a number of funders as well as large energy companies whose interest potentially extends to power purchase agreements. We intend to bid into CFD allocation round 6 next year. The project remains fully consented with a grid connection offer and seabed lease in place. The next step is to discharge the consent conditions and finalise the engineering, procurement and construction plans, which will involve engagement with UK, Solent and Isle of Wight based suppliers. Hope that's a comprehensive answer. Okay, so without further ado, that is our final cabinet meeting as we are as an alliance. Thank you all.
I understand there was a question from Councillor Peter Spink that he wanted responded to. No, okay,
That was the scrutiny for you to respond.
that's fine. Okay, he said he was going to raise it to tonight's cabinet, but the question has got a written response for members, and that has been sent to Councillor Spink. Thank you.
Okay, so that's it. Finale. Oh, sorry, Councillor Jones-Evans.
I just wanted to say thank you, Laura, for being our leader and our chair. And yeah, you've been great. Thank you very much. You kept us all together, kept us on track, and those looks as well. And but no, you've been really supportive on the end of the phone, supportive of all of us, all the difficulties that we come across within our portfolios. And you've got a voice of wisdom and reason there. And I hope we can continue working together, Laura. Thank you very much.
I'm just an old matriarch. Quote. Anyway, thank you all very much. We'll see what happens next week. Thank you all very much. I'm going to go and feed my doggies.